And so I would
invading Ukraine was wrong, what they did. And Ukraine did not start that war.
Well, the whole thing was wrong. No, Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yes.
For one specific reason. Russia's concern was that Ukraine remain not part of NATO. They want to control Ukraine to some extent. It's their neighbor. The bottom line is Russia wanted a friendly government in Ukraine. Okay? I get it. The United States, which is nowhere near Russia or Ukraine, went across the Atlantic Ocean to install its president in Ukraine in a coup. Okay, I guess both are bad, but if you're being an adult about it, you understand that great powers have an interest in not having other people's nuclear weapons on their borders.
Yes, sir. You just found it. Intercourse with you. Let's chat. Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I am your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are discussing a plethora of topics ranging from politics into relationships. And of course, we have the music corner for you guys. We hope that you are already a subscribed member, but if you are not a part of our community, we urge that you go ahead and like and subscribe by clicking that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen so that you can get updated videos when they get released. Without any further ado, let's jump into the first topic. The first topic is a conversation that took place between Andrew Cuomo and Tucker Carlson. Now, this is a little different because Tucker has been a critic of Cuomo. For whatever reason, through Patrick Bet-David, they patched up, they made up, or at least had a conversation man to man, and they see eye to eye on some things. Now, Tucker apparently did a sit-down interview with him again, and the topic of discussion was the Ukraine war and the changed perception of Zelensky, where he was first touted under the Biden administration as a Winston Churchill figure. And now, under Trump, he's viewed as a sleazy, kind of a thief who's a warmonger who wants to keep things going on. And, they discussed that conversation about how that perception changed. So without any further ado, let's jump right into that conversation.
This is something I'm very anxious for you to explain to me. I'm watching the Ukraine war. So everyone's on board. They're blue and yellow ribbons all over my neighborhood.
I was not on board at all.
Well, the country was. The Republicans were and the Democrats were. And I kept hearing, boy, it's like they're kind of like us. They're fighting against this oppressor and trying to shut it off so they can be their own way and get away from the kleptocracy and everything else. Now Trump comes back, and all of a sudden, all the people who are in favor of Ukraine on the right now say that it's a kleptocracy and Zelensky is a bad guy and Putin, not so bad. Russia, not so bad. It's really NATO and America that has done the wrong thing here and forced Russia's hand. And Ukraine and Zelensky kind of did too, and they're really dirty, and they're stealing all our money and selling all our stuff. I don't believe any of it. You are a big purveyor of this, and I want to understand it. How did everything change this way?
Well, it changed because politicians in general, with some exceptions, but not many, have no principles at all. And they respond just to one stimulus, which is election. That's it. And if they think something will get them reelected, they'll say it. And if they don't, they won't. I've said the same thing, I think, since day one, which is this is not in our interest at all. And we've really hurt ourselves, and we've dislodged the dollar from its preeminence. And that has consequences people are not thinking through. And Russia, of course, has an interest in what happens in Ukraine. And of course, they don't want American missiles on their border any more than we'd want Chinese missiles in Tijuana. Like that's, of course, that's a real thing. And moreover, the thing you fear most is the alignment of Russia with China, because then you unite the world's largest country, the largest nuclear arsenal with the world's largest economy and the world's largest population. And that becomes a bloc that many others gravitate to, and that reduces you, the United States, to the bitch position very fast.
Understand, but even within that, the premise is Russia bad, China potentially bad.
What does bad even mean? I mean, like
Russia bad means they are consistently invested in what's bad for America. Putin is a
well, they
constant-
certainly are now. I mean, they're aligned with China. So yeah, that was not true at the beginning of 2022. And so
but
I would
invading
just
Ukraine was wrong, what they did. And Ukraine did not start that war.
well, the whole thing was wrong. No, Russia invaded Ukraine
Yes.
for one specific reason. Russia's concern was that Ukraine remain not part of NATO. They want to control Ukraine to some extent. It's their neighbor. The bottom line is Russia wanted a friendly government in Ukraine. Okay. I get it. The United States, which is nowhere near Russia or Ukraine, went across the Atlantic Ocean to install its president in Ukraine in a coup. Okay, I guess both are bad, but if you're being an adult about it, you understand that great powers have an interest in not having other people's nuclear weapons on their borders.
So
if
we
you're
don't have nuclear weapons on the border. The only nuclear weapon,
well,
the only
really, so NATO doesn't have look
in Ukraine. No,
okay. Their concern was,
and Ukraine used to have a lot of nukes, and they agreed to get rid of them on the basis of protection from Russia.
Those were Soviet nukes,
right,
and that was negotiated by the United States. But
right,
all I'm saying is, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of what's good for the United States, you do not want Russia becoming in close military alliance and economic alliance with China. And every administration has understood this. The Biden administration went to the Munich Security Conference in February of 2022 and had the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, say at a press conference to Zelensky, we want you in NATO. We want you to be an American satellite with American weapons in your country. She said that, knowing that was the red line. Putin's like, look, I just don't want Ukraine in NATO. You've had all these countries around my borders in NATO, but you cannot have Ukraine. It's too big. It's too important. And Putin gave a speech immediately after in Russia saying, this NATO thing is too much. We have to invade, and we're doing it. Those are the facts. Okay. So the question is, why would you do that? Because we want to fight Russia. And now that is the core, the desire of the American foreign policy establishment to have a war with Russia. That does not make any sense to me.
Zelensky articulates a very different case, right? He wanted
what's his case?
His case is he wanted America and Europe to help them fight back Russia because Russia wants to reestablish the USSR. And he wants to keep Ukraine sovereign. America was helping them with that. And now all of a sudden, Zelensky's a thief. They're stealing all our money. They're selling all our weapons to Mexican cartels. None of these things are true.
Well, that is true.
Why? No, it is not true.
Okay, I'll just go in order.
Give me the point of it, and then
Ukraine.
We can talk
just to define sovereignty. Sovereignty is the freedom to make independent decisions, and Ukraine does not have that, and has never had that since 2014, when its government was installed by an American coup.
He was democratically elected.
Well, he's not democratically elected. He's passed his term.
Well,
he just put his main political opponent under indictment and froze his personal funds under internal sanctions, the security services of Ukraine.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
I don't know.
We just went through the same thing in this country.
Sounds like dictatorship,
what I'm saying
by
is,
the way.
No, but he's not a dictator. He was elected, and now, under their constitution, he does have the ability to stall elections and operate under martial law during the conflict. It's the same thing with Israel right now. They're not having elections either because they're in the midst of an active conflict. It's not a time for transition of power.
Okay, but I don't know why we make excuses for dictatorship.
It's not a dictatorship.
Of course it is. No. And to your second point, he has absolutely, as a matter of fact, the Ukrainian military has sold those weapons on the black market around the world. They've wound up in the hands of, among others, the Mexican drug cartels, the Taliban, Hamas in Gaza. Fact. And a lot of other groups.
I don't agree that those are facts.
You know what?
I'll
bet you my car that in the next
kind of car
year,
is it?
With some crappy.
Oh, then I'm not going to bet that.
Okay. No, I don't have nice cars. I'll admit that. I've never bought a new car that I know
we're not
of.
doing a swap.
Okay. But anyway, the point is, that's and as no one believes me. I know someone who bought some of the weapons.
Well, first of all, you would have to substantiate, who it is that you knew, because.
Do you believe the most corrupt country in Europe, which is so corrupt that NATO didn't want it as a member, you believe it's outside the realm of possibility that facing defeat, the leaders of that military would not sell the weapons that they're getting from the West? Are you kidding?
Cannot substantiate a claim on the basis of mere suspicion.
Okay, I want to weigh in on this. This is one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo is a guy that I don't really think he's that smart, to be totally honest with you. But Tucker Carlson is telling him, I know firsthand from somebody who actually purchased the weapons. And I'm sure as a journalist, Tucker verified that this person actually did purchase it. And Cuomo is almost like he's got these talking points to make Tucker look like he's lying and misrepresenting the facts. And you see a little bit of this throughout this interview, where this guy is arguing a point that you don't even know. Like, what are you arguing? Because he's part of that deep think, group think media team, a former CNN anchor, all these guys who had talking points to build certain perceptions and to confuse the public. Even when he's wrong, he speaks as if he's correct, and it makes him look pompous. It makes him look like he's a part of the problem. So
that because
it's not mere suspicion. I know someone who bought some of the weapons.
I believe that you think that. What I'm saying
I don't think that. I know it.
I'm saying that, well, you know that they say it. You don't know whether they did. And I'll tell you why I'm suspicious. Because the missiles that Russia put out those pictures of were from like 2014. And they didn't even have javelins then. Are you texting while I'm having a conversation with you?
I'm texting right now.
Very
with someone.
rude.
No,
Very
I'm texting
rude.
on WhatsApp right now on this exact subject.
Tucker, I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying I'm disagreeing that it's a fact that the military there is spending weapons that they very much need to Mexican cartels. This is not documented stuff, and it seems to want to smear Ukraine to make them the bad guy.
It's not a matter of
Russia
smearing Ukraine. Okay. This is one of those topics that I'm just gonna. I'm
not mad at you.
No. I'm mad because I know this is true.
And why hasn't it been documented?
I'm just telling you that if this will be documented.
Going back to Andrew Cuomo, the guy almost is a heckler to me, right? The dude's like, hey, I have firsthand direct contact. It hasn't been documented, but I know the person personally who told me. And knowing this dude, he gets things verified before he will go out and make a public statement. He's not lying about it. And you could tell that he's passionate about it, mainly because that's what it is. And this Cuomo guy, up until the point he's like, I'll get my guy on the line. I'll send you a picture. Oh, no, I'm not saying I don't believe you. Yes, you are. You're essentially saying you don't believe the guy. You're trying to discredit his point of view as if to say, well, it hasn't been documented. What do you mean it hasn't been documented? The guy's telling you, I have firsthand knowledge that this happened. Now, keep in mind, Tucker Carlson was also the guy that interviewed one of Joe Biden's business partners with China. And the dude pretty much said, hey, I was in business with the Bidens, and we coordinated getting payments and stuff from China. I was a part of it. I can testify to it. He provided documentation. So Tucker is not the type of person that is going to make a statement like that without it being verified, without it having some sort of validity to it. And for Cuomo to heckle him like that in a way, it's almost like he's pushing buttons for the sake of trying to go viral or heckling. Maybe he thinks that makes him a good interviewer. I think it makes him look like really like a not credible person. It makes him look like ignorant, actually. It makes him look foolish. And he does it all the time, which is why it's hard for me to ever watch that guy. I'm only really watching the video because I follow Tucker Carlson, and I think like he's actually a guy who takes his craft seriously. But yeah, I mean, the proof is in the pudding there.
And I got that directly, once again, from someone who purchased quite a few of those weapons, who I know personally. And it's just frustrating because I can't say beyond that.
Look, my point is not to frustrate you, Tucker. It's to understand.
Well, let me ask you this:
framing Ukraine.
It's not a mentality. I'm not even blaming Zelensky directly. I'm saying this is the largest country in Europe. We have poured billions of dollars in pretty high-tech weapons systems into this country, and we're not keeping track of them.
So do you believe that we should just back out of what we're doing there now and let Russia take it?
Russia take it? I don't know. At this point,
Well,
Russia has, we're not in charge. Russia just won. They beat us in their war. In case you haven't noticed, Russia outproduced in munitions NATO, including the United States, 4-1. So we just lost the war. So we are not negotiating from a position of strength. Sorry. I'm not taking Russia's side. I'm on America's side. This is terrible for us. We've exposed how weak we are.
See, I saw it the other way, which is we thought Russia was going to roll over Ukraine, and they have been unable to.
They rolled over us. They took a big chunk of eastern Ukraine, and for 3 years we've progressed toward bankruptcy, trying to stop it, and we've not been able to. They won. This is bad. It's divided our country. All these dumb Ukraine people are flying foreign flags in front of their houses.
See, I feel that the division is forced in this country. That, to me, it seems pretty basic that Russia can't have Ukraine because it doesn't.
Well, we can't. What are we going to do?
It doesn't stop it.
We already. But okay. But at some
then
point,
it's Estonia and Latvia.
This Estonia. You know, it's always some chick, that blonde chick. I'm president of Estonia. You know, a country of 5 million people that invented the sauna. By the way, I'm part Finnish. I'm not against Estonia. I'm sure it's great. But the idea that some woman who's never been in the armed service, like setting military policy for the EU, you know, we're going to do this. You can't do anything. You don't have an army. We have a nuclear armed power, largest nuclear arsenal in the world, that is fighting for its very life, that is aligned with China. Okay, which is the largest economy in the world.
I don't know that Russia's fighting for its life. I think Putin forced this situation.
Okay, whatever. Leaving aside moral culpability, I'm just saying it's a big deal for them. It's on their border. It's their border, okay? So now what are our options? Like, actually, what are our options?
The options are what President Trump is doing right now, which is to try to get the parties to the table and draw a line in the sand and make a deal. Right.
That's the only option I see. I don't see any other options, but maybe I'd love to hear what they are.
No, I mean, there's never any other option unless you want to actively fight and take territory and occupy.
Who's going to actively fight? There are no Ukrainians left.
Well, look, both sides are manpower poor, right? You know the stories about Russia emptying the prisons.
Russia has 140 million people,
but
100 million more people.
But have you ever heard of us emptying out the prisons? I mean, why does he have to do that? He's in a desperate
place.
Because
he doesn't want his citizens to have to fight an unpopular war, because he's worried about his popularity, because he wants to stay in power.
You think Putin is concerned about his popularity in a place where he kills all of his opponents on a regular basis?
He's very concerned about his popularity.
Really?
This guy loses every argument he makes. First, Tucker made a definitive statement. Russia is winning the war. That's a fact. They have captured territory. Their objectives are being met. Trump called a ceasefire, stop supplying Ukraine, stop funding Ukraine. And now Russia has the upper hand, which is why Trump was saying you don't have the cards. And so they've gotten most of the mineral producing areas within Ukraine. They've captured it. They're bombing them. They got more people than them, more artillery than them. They have just a plethora, more weapons. They have obviously nuclear weapons, and they've really scratched the surface of their capability. I mean, I think they're low-key kind of playing with these guys, right? So he's valid in saying that Russia's winning that war. It may be a slow grind, because I think Putin had a bigger idea to really kind of bleed Ukraine, just to make the point, because I believe that the whole objective of NATO, and even under the Biden administration in the U.S., is to really get Putin to show his hands of what kind of weapons he's got, so that they can plan around it, to show his hands of, in terms of putting a lot of people on the front line and depleting his armed services, so that they can be weakened in the war with Ukraine, so that when and if Ukraine did actually end up joining NATO, and a bigger conflict takes place, by that time, Russia will be tapped out. What they didn't calculate is that Russia would be so closely aligned to China and so closely aligned to North Korea, which both have formidable armed forces and have military pacts with Russia. They wanted to deplete Russia in terms of their finances, in terms of their economy. They put sanctions. They tried to really kind of get the people to uprise against them. They try to overthrow Vladimir Putin, and they even paid off one of the generals and had him betray Putin. Putin eventually took care of that. Dude blew up in a plane accident, and now all of a sudden he's got the upper hand again. So this dude is not overplaying his hand. He's a very calculated guy who's slowly grinding Ukraine out. Meanwhile, while all the sanctions was meant to deplete their GDP has increased. They haven't lost a step. The value of their currency has increased. Now, obviously, they're not able to do businesses as much with a lot of people, but they still have a neutral ally with India, who's both on both sides. And India has never sided with the US or Russia. They just stayed in the middle, and they've helped Russia. China, same thing. And then they got allies elsewhere. They've increased their relationships with African nations who are, essentially kicking out Western forces in their places like Burkina Faso, places like, I think, what's the other one? What's another one? There's a few of them. I want to say Mali and a few other places that are now aligning with Russian forces and kicking out U.S. forces or kicking out French forces. And they're essentially building relationships so that it's business as usual. So I think the intended objectives were not met. And now, in terms of who has the upper hand, it's definitely Russia. So when he makes that statement, it's actually accurate. And this guy's talking about, well, if they had, if they have, 100 million more people and more weapons and all this nuclear force, then they should have beat them within weeks. So by mere fact that he held back and didn't exterminate this country, that means he's less capable, or they're weak and they're not strong and they're struggling. This is the type of thinking that gets us into conflicts like Vietnam, where everyone's promising you it's going to be a quick in and out situation. Next thing you know, you're there for a while. Same thing happened with Iraq. It's going to be quick operations going in and out. Next thing you know, you're there 20 years. Afghanistan, same thing. There 20 years, and then we're fleeing out of there because you didn't change those people's thinking. You know what I mean? So to me, this further proves that Cuomo's outmatched here. And the things he say to me kind of annoy me to the point that I'm like, just hearing the guy talk bothers me because he don't know what he's talking about. And when the dude's correcting you and saying, no, dude, I have direct access. I'll show you. Here's the WhatsApp conversation. Obviously, I'm sure the dude probably presented evidence of that, and he asked him a question like, yo, we've posed a question to you. Do you think Ukraine, being known as a corrupt country in Europe, is outside the realms of possibility that they could be selling off some of the equipment they got from us because they can already see that a defeat is looming ahead? Do you think that people who may want to make a quick buck, it would be out of the realm of possibility? And this guy's like kind of tippy-toeing around the question because he's lost the argument.
When he completely engineers the outcome of everything that happens.
Russia is a very complicated place with a lot of different competing power centers, including the FSB, which
then how has he stayed in power so long?
Because he's really good at politics and he pays very close attention to what the public thinks.
You know how lousy life is there for people, right? And not just because of the economic sanctions right now. It just has
another talking point for this guy. The U.S. will always tell you it's lousy everywhere around the world when they have an agenda to sort of frame people into seeing that place as the bad guy and them being the good guy. Tucker traveled there, I think twice this past year, and was showing how clean their subway systems are, how things actually move. And it's really not as crazy and as deprived and as depleted some of these people would like you to believe. And this guy stays on a talking point. It's as if he's still on CNN. I don't get it.
I mean,
have you been there recently?
Recently, no.
I've been there twice. I've been there twice in the last year.
Why are you allowed in?
I don't know. I'm an American.
There we go. Now all of a sudden, how come you're allowed to go there? Because you're a friend of Putin. So now Trump was a Putin Russian agent. He was a plant. This guy was one of the ones pushing that type of narrative through under the Biden administration. Now Tucker, because he was actually doing journalistic work, because he actually went and got a conversation with the country with the most nuclear weapons as a means of trying to find a way to not go into nuclear war and have World War III between two major powers. He's somehow a friend of Putin who's been compromised. And the way he asks the question, it's like a heckler. A guy like this deserves no respect.
Or whatever. Because I believe in seeing things and reaching my own conclusions.
Oh, me too. I'm not allowed in there as a journalist.
I'm sure you could call right now and they will let you in, and you should go.
They just wouldn't let me out. Wind up like Paul Whelan.
I think
you wouldn't be arguing my case.
I agree they wouldn't let him out, because you go into a country like that where there's a strong man at the helm and you start talking crazy, you start talking like you're some sort of moral high ground and you could talk down to these people and press him and ask him and not being respectful. Of course, that man's about to throw you in the gulag and he's going to set you straight, because you should have a little better manners than to go in there like that. And that's, I think, a lot of times Tucker's been able to manage that. He went in there and showed respect to that host country, which I think any wise journalist should. Yeah, you might want to ask the guy some questions that are tough, but you got to still be respectful. You can't go in there and disrespect the guy as if you're his father and you get to tell him what to do. And that's how these guys think. Well, if you don't go in there and ask him this question and press him and do this and do that, then you're not a real journalist. No, dude, that just means he's smart. He's not going to go in there and offend the host nation. Of course, they're not going to let you out if you acting like that. But at the same time, if you go in there and you show respect, then you could actually have a conversation. That's just a man thing, right? Normally, when men talk to each other, we approach every conversation with respect first. The moment you go into a conversation being disrespectful to a man, there is a 99% chance that it turns confrontational with most men. 99%. And you can't do that. So when this guy says that type of stuff, it's almost like he's trying to make Tucker look like, A, he's a plant. B, he's trying to make him seem like, well, you know, you must not be a real journalist, because they don't let journalists like me in there. He's like, nah, you can call them and they'll let you in. Yeah, but they won't let me out. Of course they won't let you out, because you know you're going to go in there and be disrespectful. And a guy like that's not going to stand for that. Tucker doesn't come in from that angle. And Putin's a guy that seems to do his research. He knows everything about these guys. I think when Tucker went over there, he knew Tucker's family was a part of the CIA. This dude had this whole dude's script down there. Putin used to be a secret agent for the Russian Federation. And so he knows all these things, right? So you can't go in there with a guy who's accustomed to catching spies posing as journalists, right? Or people who's trying to run agendas in there and try to like change the narrative as a means of changing the people and getting an uprising in there, which is a tactic that the CIA has been known for using around the world. So a guy like that is not going to tolerate that type of stuff. So if Cuomo thinks he's going to go in there and puff his chest, yeah, you're probably not going to leave, bro. That's the right thought. You're not going to leave.
But look, here's the point. Putin does not have absolute control of his country, and there are all kinds of potential rivals. He's been there for.
You sound more sympathetic towards him than towards Zelensky.
I'm definitely more sympathetic to Putin than Zelensky for the following.
I love that Tucker does that. You sound more sympathetic, as if he's supposed to feel bad for that. Look, he explains that Zelensky's a plant who was put there by the U.S. government, which is what we often do. He was put there. in the sense that he was a part of a coup of the original government that was more neutral and more friendly with Russia. They were put there, and then he explains what happens. Obviously, then they gave him the impression that Ukraine can join NATO, and Russia's like, look, we already set a deal that you guys are not going to move anywhere closer towards my border, and now this is one of the last neutral countries on my border, and you guys are trying to move your NATO operations to be on my border, where you will set up military bases and potentially nuclear weapons, potentially posing a threat to us. We're not going to let that happen. And dude sent a letter to Biden and them. They didn't even want to have no conversation, saying, yo, please pull back. We're serious about this. They ignored those warnings. And when they ignored the warnings, the guy says, you know what? I'm taking over. Just so you know I'm serious and this is a real issue for us, we'll go to war over it. We'll fight over it. And we're willing to fight to great lengths no matter what. You know what I mean? If that means we got to push buttons, we got to push buttons. And now it's been this posturing that's taking place between the two superpowers. But in a way, you're provoking the guy by moving closer to his border when it was agreed that that wasn't going to happen, right? So this is why there's this big question about who provoked who. Now, yes, Russia did first engage in the war. They did attack them first. But at the same time, it's in part due to the fact that these guys were on the verge of joining NATO, and they're not friends with NATO, right?
Reason I judge, I'm not sympathetic to Putin in the sense that I don't want to move to Russia. I don't see Russia as like a close friend of mine at all, or a free country or anything like that. I'm just saying, I think it's fair to judge leaders on how they do for their country. They have one job: do a good job for your country, make it better. And
you think Russia's doing well?
Oh, a lot better than Ukraine. I mean, a lot of Ukrainians have fled Ukraine to Russia. A lot.
Well, yeah, they're under siege right now.
No, but I'm just saying, like, Russia actually, for a country at war, is thriving.
You think that's true for Russia, that they don't look really weak because they couldn't roll over Ukraine?
Russia's nuclear weapons. It is hypersonic weapons. Russia could eliminate Ukraine in about 10 seconds. By the way, anybody who's trying to avoid a nuclear exchange, I'm on your side.
Yes.
And that would include almost no Republican members of the Senate. Okay. They're all like full blown. They're old. They don't care. Like I said, they don't care about their grandkids or humanity itself or whatever. They're totally willing to risk nuclear war.
Although Lindsey Graham just took a step backwards, which I thought was surprising.
It's completely silly. He's blaming, look, a lot's going to come out. We reached an impasse on the question of whether Ukraine is selling weapons. They are.
It's not a debate. I'm just saying that it seems that
but let me
the
just
line
say,
has shifted and now Ukraine is the bad guy.
Okay, we haven't heard anything about Ukraine for the past 3 years. You were required, and I got fired over this, so I know. You were required to pretend that Zelensky, who I think is a complicated person, for whom I feel sorry, actually. I feel like he's a pawn among bigger powers, okay? I feel bad for Zelensky. But we were required to pretend that he was Jesus and that Vladimir Putin was Satan. And my only point is that's not true, actually. It's way more complicated than that. Both of them have good and bad qualities. And moreover, it's not our fight. Like, what are we doing there?
Okay. With that said, we are going to jump into our panel discussions. And we're going to allow some of our panelists to weigh in on the conversation. I'm joined by the beautiful Dominique, as well as my man Zay, just to kind of get some views on it besides mine, obviously. What did you think about what you heard, Dominique? I think your mic is muted.
I pretty much agree with Tucker Carlson in that. I mean, I feel like he came prepared. He knew what he was talking about. He's done the research, and I'm not sure.
I'd agree. Zay, would you like to weigh in? What did you think about the 2 points? I mean, this was supposed to be a little bit of debate between Chris Cuomo and Tucker Carlson, where Chris was trying to make the case that how come we've become less sympathetic to Ukraine now that there's been a change in powers. Why is it that the perception of Zelensky has changed to something less positive than it was before? I don't know if his mic is working. He might have a little technical difficulty. But I mean, we could come back to you, Zay, if your mic is not working. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there are, as Tucker put it, complicated things in the personalities of both leaders. It's interesting because Andrew Tate did a recent interview with Patrick Bet-David, and he kind of weighed in on this, saying that Zelensky's under an immense amount of pressure and that he's kind of a cokehead in a way. Like, this dude is not exactly, thinking clear. And he wants to continue the war. He wants all these security guarantees. And it's like, dude, you're losing the war. Take what you can get. If you can still remain in power and keep 75% of your country, it's a good day. Versus continuing this war, not really getting the support, actually causing discourse between the US and NATO over this war. And now you're being bombed every day and your life is potentially at risk. Like, at some point, bro, you got to raise the towel. You don't sit around and continue to fight a war that you're not winning. At some point, you got to tap out and know when you're defeated. And it's clear and evident that you're defeated. And personally, I believe that NATO's the only one who thinks they got something to gain here. Somehow, some way, NATO has their own agenda. Supposedly, they're afraid of Russia so much. They feel so threatened by him that they would use a guy like Zelensky to cause a war between the two of these guys. And it's like, why is that our business? These guys aren't even paying their percentage of the protection that they've agreed to pay. We're funding it. We're sending the equipment. We're sending the people, the expertise. We're sending the financial assistance. And, these guys are sitting back watching us deplete our funds, going to we're at $32 trillion of debt. You know what I mean? With a $1 trillion interest payment every month to support something that serves us not at all. Like, we don't gain or benefit from that. Meanwhile, we got our own problems here. So I'm of the mindset that NATO wants to be big and tough and they want to fight. Let them handle that. Or just be more direct. Don't fight indirectly and fight a proxy war. Be more direct. Say that you got a problem and actually square up with Russia. If that's what it is, just do it. But I think it's very, very interesting that they don't. And they're constantly trying to pin the US against Russia and make us to be the bad guy. And to be quite frank, I'm no historian, but I know enough to know that when Germany was on its rampage, Russia actually allied with the US to stop Germany, thereby saving Europe, who was being overrun by Germany. So it's interesting how quickly we forget. And now the people who was the bad guy in that conflict is now part of the crew going against the people who was our ally in that conflict. And they've changed the narrative and made that guy the bad guy. And now they're getting us to somehow fund all of this. This goes back to the thinking and leadership. This goes back to the direction that things go. It's not good. Now, again, I'm no expert in this field. I'm just weighing in on what I've seen and the information I have. Maybe there's more information that might change my perception. From what I can see and what I can kind of discern, I don't see why we should be involved at all. And I don't know why anybody will be opposed to us not going into further conflict, to us sealing everything and actually stopping things from escalating further, because what's at stake is the lives of the innocent, the lives of the civilians. What's at stake is the chance of a greater conflict in World War III with nuclear weapons, right? It's not something we should play with, and we seem to play with it. I think he raised another really good point where he says a lot of these senators and people that's supposed to be our representatives, they're warmongers. They're supporting these things. You have to ask yourself why. Why would a senator think it's good to get us into conflict when American lives is potentially at stake? Now, I know with you, Dominique, you served in the armed forces. Did you guys ever have any opinions on what leadership would do along these things?
Of course, but
Not allowed to
yeah.
express them, right?
It's not that you couldn't express it. You definitely had to be mindful who you expressed your concerns in front of. At the end of the day, you had to, duty first. So you couldn't put your personal preferences or convictions on how you felt things were going to be handled in front of whatever the duty was. So
It was. And that's the thing. And to me, that's where it goes back to this place of how many innocent lives do parents in trusting that our government has our good interest in mind, are doing things in good faith, they're letting their children go serve only to be deployed into a conflict that's senseless and foolish. And now somebody has to lose their child because some greedy senator or some secret organization in the background had their own agendas. Somebody like the likes of Victoria Nuland, a lady who's been an utter failure when it comes to foreign policy, but continues to grow up in ranks and continue to do these things. These people have these nation building agendas and they're making decisions, and they've a track record of being wrong all the time. But we continue to like risk American lives, risk American money on these things. And it's like, it's not wise. And I'm to be totally honest, I'm glad that at least Trump has the appetite for peace and is willing to stand up and take the slack associated with it to say, hey, we don't have a dog in this fight, and we're not going to keep funding and and provoking a war with a nuclear power. We're not going to do that. And we're going to, find ways to bridge the gap and settle for peace. All right. I don't know if Zay's still there or if he wants to weigh in, but if not, we're going to jump right into the next topic. Now, if Zay, if you do want to weigh in, feel free to interrupt me. But the next topic is one having to do with the recent presidential address that Trump made to both houses in the government, both the I think he was in the Senate actually, but I believe, some congressmen and people was there as well. And that really caused a lot of stir. Let me go ahead and share this tab. I'm going to share the story, and we're going to jump right into that as our next topic of conversation.
I saw this woman, Jasmine Crockett, maybe Cricket too, but Crockett. Maybe Cricket, but and Maxine Waters and another black woman with no hair, how they're acting in our government, and not just them, these other black women as well. And it is awful. It's awful. And what America don't realize, and maybe they do, but they're just afraid to stop it. America has made a horrible mistake allowing black women, black females to get into government, to get into your business and try to run your companies, to try to run the police department or anything. You have made a horrible mistake. And America is already regretting it, but you're going to regret it even more so. Because the one thing that you don't realize, or maybe you do, but just afraid to stop it or say it or anything, is that black people do not know how to run anything. They just don't know how. They have no self-control, no knowledge of how to do anything good. and everything they touch turned to ghetto. And the reason for that, first of all, they have not been taught discipline, self-discipline in their homes. And they have not been taught it in the schools because white people are afraid to correct the blacks. And so, and then black females have been taught that they suffer. The black females suffer so much. And the black females do not respect black men. And as a result of not being corrected by the black men, their fathers, their boyfriends, their uncles, and their nephews, and their male cousins, and grandpa, and no one, they have gone completely out of control. And then the white people tell them they understand because it's hard on the black female. She had it hard. She went through slavery, and then she had to take care of the family, and she this. And so black females cannot run anything. They have stone attitudes, and they feel entitled, and they lost all sense of self-control. And America, you will regret it if you're not already regretting it. I remember there was a time in government when it was pretty much ran by white people, and there was a sense of respect. It was like rules in the government that they would have to treat each other with, respect each other. Even if they didn't agree, they still would be orderly as much as possible and try to run the government however they ran it, but it was a sense of respect. That's gone now because you've allowed black females to be a part of it. And they are nasty. They're evil. And what you see these black females and the way they're acting in government, the police department, city councils, mayors, whatever you allow them to be in, is what they're done in the home too. They have done this to the children, the men's children. They have done it to the men, the black men in the homes, if they were in the homes. And black females have no respect at all, zero. They have nothing but anger and disrespect. And really with the white man, I remember once when I wasn't that into government, paying that much attention, and I lived in South Central LA for a while when I first moved out here. And one time, Maxine Waters, you know how the government go home for a vacation. While they're home, they meet around with the community sometimes. And Maxine Waters met with the community. And at that time, Newt Gingrich was in office. And Maxine was talking about how horribly she treated Newt Gingrich. He was white, and she just said what she wanted to say to him, and she just does what she wanted to do. And the people applauded. The blacks applauded it. They didn't think that was wrong or disgusting or that's not the way you act in government. It's not the way an adult should act. White people, you see for yourself that blacks cannot run anything. You see, they don't even have their own businesses in their own neighborhoods. And their neighborhoods are ghetto. They can't run anything, and yet you turn the American government over to them, and they are destroying it. And I have proof of it. This is hell on earth. And because of the blacks, not all, but most, because there are some black men and women who are starting to wake up from this, and they're working on themselves, they're forgiving, and they're overcoming anger. But because of that, the government, these people are screwing up the government, and the white people are afraid to stop them. Look, it's just over. It's just over. Look at South Africa. Look at anywhere in the world where the world have allowed the blacks to take over and run their thing, especially Western world, and even in South Africa or Africans where blacks, it's just only blacks. There's, I guess, some places where mostly black. It's screwed up. Nothing is working. And you have turned a Christian country over to them that was founded by white men who, by the grace of God, built the greatest country in the world. And due to fear, you allow the enemies of God to destroy it. It's mind-blowing to me, but I understand. When you have fear, you can't function. Your whole life is dictated by fear. I want to show you the attitude of Black females. And this attitude that you're going to see, and you've already seen in the government, is what's happening in the Black homes, in the Black churches, in the Black community, and all everywhere. And that's why nothing works. And you wonder why the kids are so bad and out of control. They're just like the Black females, their mothers and their grandmothers. They have no sense of discipline at all. They have no love and they have no respect. And they are grown bodies acting like wild animals. And you've turned this country over to them. And they hate the white man. And they love, and the white woman too, to be honest. And they love arguing with them in public and trying everything they have to disrespect them and degrade them. And when they do, they feel good about it. And the Black people applaud them. This is hell on earth, and this is evil. Our country, my country, I don't care how much you sing and dance about it and say it, it's no longer a Christian country. I know Donald Trump, the great white hope, is trying to bring it back to that, but it's too far gone. You've allowed the children of evil to get in there and run things. And then you give them permission out of fear, and you say, oh, you're a Black female, you've had it hard. You lie to them, and they know it, and they are out of control. I want to show you what this woman, Jasmine Cricket, did. And it's disgusting, it's evil. She's a grown female, but she's acting like a DEI person. It's pretty sad. It's sad in that you allow evil to take on over your life inwardly and outwardly by going along with this. And America will regret it. They already regret it. They're going to regret it even more so. And I noticed that most of these female so-called politicians are in the Democratic Party. They run the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is falling apart. As the so-called people of color take over the Democratic Party, look what it is becoming. They say it's far left and way left. It's evil now, pure evil. That's why they're not feeling anything except hatred. They hate the great white hope, Donald Trump. And they hate all people, to be honest. Because if you don't love all, you love none. Nobody. You gotta love your enemy. If you don't love your enemy, you love no one, your own children, your own family. And this is why they treat each other this way. I may not know some things, but I know Black people. And Black people, not all, but most, because there are some Black people overcoming, but Black people don't care. They have no love. They don't care about destroying you. They get a thrill. They really don't care about each other or anything. They have no love. And this is the church-going Black people, the non-church-going Black people, the so-called educated Black people, the non-educated Black. They don't care. They'll cuss you out. They'll fight you. They don't care. Black on Black crime, out of control. They don't care. They have lost their way. They're evil. It has nothing to do with racism. No such thing as racism or sexism or homophobia or Allah'ism or white supremacism, anti-Semitism, or there be Jaiism. No ism. This is evil, pure evil. I want to show you what these Black women, Black females have done or is doing to our country, and they have already done it to the Black family and the Black community. And the Black men are so weak, they call them queens. Black queens, they call them. They don't say queens of hell. They're Black queens, all right, but queens of Satan. And it's sad. It's hell on earth. And they are bringing their hell into government now, which is going to affect all Americans unless you overcome the world. This is from SK Pop. This is about this Black female so-called Texas representative, Jasmine Cricket, posts a video on Tuesday night on TikTok dancing to Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us version from the Super Bowl halftime performance. White people should have never allowed that guy to perform at the Super Bowl. That's not the way white people act at the Super Bowl. Just like that opening that the Anchorman put together, you had this black guy performing at Donald Trump event. He up there talking about having a dream and looking over the mountain. Look just as stupid. In your face, white people. And you're turning over your country to them. Black people cannot run anything. That's why they have nothing going on for themselves. They take over the white people already developed things and they destroy it. They don't make it better. But anyway, so this Jasmine Cricket dancing to Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us version from the Super Bowl halftime performance ahead of Donald Trump joint address to Congress. This is from SK Pop. So this is where Cricket urged everyone not to watch the president delivering his speech. Watch this from X. This is an image of it.
This is her X account, and the name of her X account is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. What a mess. And it reads, well, the state of the disunion will begin shortly. I'm going to be in attendance. And she puts an unamused emoji. And she writes, do not watch, in all caps.
And I want you to, if you're watching this photo, go back to it.
Oh, my bad.
If you're watching this photo of her, it looks like she's at the White House there somewhere. Look how she's acting. Look at the ghetto grin and the hood personality, attitude. There's nothing professional about that at all.
And did she think it was the State of the Union? She's calling it the State of the Disunion.
She doesn't know. But look at it. Does that look professional? Does that look like she's a part of an American government? She brought the hood to the White House, and you voted for her. This is the attitude of Black females. This is what drives Black children to violence, being raised by females like this. And the Black men can't stop it because their mothers were like this, and they end up with, you become attracted to what you hate, so they end up with the mothers. Same spirit, and they can't handle it. Here is Jasmine Cricket TikTok post. Watch this.
Oh no! It's a cultural divide. I'ma get it on the flow. You really about to do it? 40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music. You really about to do it? Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. They get on it like that. Hey, I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back like bro. Must have on a beat, bro. Deep boat, any rap, he a freak though, man. They on the ember lamps, tell them breathe. Let them boys get across, they walk around like thieves. What's up with these?
Think about that. This is supposed to be a governmental representative. White people white people don't even act this way now in government, not crazy like that. You have brought the hood to the White House by way of the Black female. And some Black men, but even the Black men don't act. I know you saw that Black guy with the ponytail the other night acting stupid. But even the Black men don't quite act that way. Remember when the government was professional, they dressed professionally and they acted professionally. Remember we used to have that in America? When I was growing up, we were taught to act professionally out there. Don't act crazy. That's gone now. That's gone now. You got this. This is in government. That is a so-called representative from Texas or somewhere, I think. Yeah, I think I read Texas. Yep. This is not the way you're supposed to act in government. But you brought the Black hood to the White House. And I promise you, you may hear one or two Blacks disagree with that, but they're going to love it because that's all they know. And it seemed normal to the Blacks. This female Cricket is dancing in what looked like the White House. Where's the professionalism in that? And then when other Black children who don't have good parents anyway, when they see that, how will they act? when they see a representative acting that way, how will they act? It looked like with the Capitol bill, it was somewhere in Washington, D.C., where she has no business being, whether it's the Capitol or the White House. Oh, not the White House. No, it wasn't the White House. The Capitol looked like the Capitol. I want you to think about that, folks. This is a grown female. This is not some little kid. And she's carrying on like that in government at work. You have brought the hood to Washington, D.C. You're voting in these black female governors and mayors and police chiefs and fire chiefs, and they're destroying it. They can't help it. That's what they do with everything they touch. Look at their own, and they end up most of the time leaving the hood because they move into white areas. Here is, so that was something here's another post from Cricket during Trump joint address. Watch this from X.
He up there, he's hearing all kinds of nonsense and bullshit. Let me just be real. And we weren't gonna sit for that shit. We wouldn't, we showed up. And if he had some sense, then maybe we would have been about that life. But y'all know he ain't got no sense. So please give some love. This took a little bit of coordinating to do for sure. We got some cool shirts. We got Madam Williams, who just happens to have the honorary seat. It's not even honorary because she's holding it down, y'all. This is the message that she wanted to send today. We've got my sis, Andrea Salinas, and she kept it real simple. Resist. That's what we about.
So you still want females running your country? Females were not created to lead. They were created to follow. And when they're not being guided, they go out of control like this. And the black female has gone out of control. Quick break, back in a moment. And get your punchy coffee. Good. Go to rebuildingtheman.com/store. Rebuildingtheman.com/store. And every dime goes back to the 501c3 nonprofit bond, my nonprofit organization. And you're helping us to help others, all right? And your mug, Tom and like a mug, you can drink your coffee from. Good. Whole bean or ground bean coffee, all right? Rebuildingtheman.com/store. I want to go back to the cricket female. America. What you don't realize is that black females hate black men. Hate them. They don't respect them, and the black men are afraid of them. They call them queen. They're so afraid of, you my queen, and the queen giving them hell. And they call them queen. This female is supposed to be a representative from Texas, and she brought the hood to the White House. And that's what's going to happen even more. If this continues, if y'all don't stop these black people from being a part of our government, it's going to be total hood. Look what Obama did to her. I remember it was reported, I don't know how true it was, that Snoop Dogg was smoking pot in the White House when Obama was there. And then, okay, so Snoop Dogg smoked pot in the White House. So when Bush, with the guy that Joe Biden left, it was said that somebody smoked cocaine up in there or something like that. It's becoming a hood. The class of America is disappearing. America was a class place at one time. Very classy. So Nick, which one we start with? Was that the one where she showed?
We finished with the B, where she was at during Trump's joint address. This post.
So here's Cricket, Jasmine Cricket, called President Trump Putin's hoe. Watch this from X.
First of all, thank you for making the back of my head famous. But second of all, if we could do a sequel, if you could tell Donald Trump anything tonight, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to grow a spine and stop being Putin's.
Stop being Putin's hoe. That came from a black female representative. Think about that. I want you to just think about that. What you don't realize that the Great White Hope and Elon Musk, they represent the father of the family. And these black females hate the father. Dad is home and dad is cleaning up, and they hate him because they hate daddy. They hate men, and they hate daddy. They hate masculinity. They hate a man that leads the way, and they will go out of their way to destroy him, embarrass him, or whatever it takes. Jasmine Cricket, Maxine Waters, and that female with no hair, and all these black, they're doing the same thing. They hate men, and they especially hate men that they cannot control because all their lives they've been controlling black men. Black men lick the feet of black females because they're afraid of them. They don't know how to handle them, and they call them queens. And Trump represent dad, and they hate dad, and they hate God. She want to tell Trump, stop being Putin ho. That came from the mouth of a so-called representative. Where's the professionalism in that? Where's the orderly thing that when it was just white people running the government, it was happening, it worked. And you think that's bad, and it is. Cricket tell Elon Musk to F off. Watch this on X.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
That's it.
See? And they laugh. This is like a hood rat. This is a government representative. And the world is watching. F off, she says. She's dancing at what appear to be the Capitol. She's doing black hood dances. My country is gone. You have turned my country over to the hood rats, and they will destroy it. Black people destroy everything they touch. And not all, but most. It's not going to work allowing these people to run your businesses, run your schools, run your country. It will. It's already South Africa. It's only going to get worse. And white people, there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide to. They'll follow you wherever you go, and they will destroy you. Because their hearts are angry, their hearts are wicked. And they blame you for their wicked hearts. They don't blame their mothers and their fathers where it started, where it came from. They blame you. Because for them, they get to be voted in by other angry black people. It's interesting, in the good old days, before the so-called civil rights movement, which should have never happened, it was the worst thing ever happened to the blacks other than abortion. Even black people wouldn't tolerate this female acting this way in government or anywhere else, really. She's cursing. She's carrying on. And she's supposed to be a professional person. It's not a joke. It's very destructive. And you're going to see the White House, our government will be a hood government. You're letting too many black females in there. And look at that black female out of over there where they had the Mardi Gras thing. What's that city? New Orleans. New Orleans. It's a ghetto. New Orleans is a pure ghetto since the blacks took over. It was already bad in the black hoods. It's worse now. Look at the Los Angeles. You got a black female so-called mayor running LA. Look what happened. She offered some black party up in Africa somewhere, and the town is burning down. And yet you vote them in because you're trying to make the black people think you love them, and you're showing fear to them, and they're destroying what you built. I can't think of one thing that the blacks have done to make America better, to add to it. But I can tell you 1,000 things they have done to destroy it, and you allow it to happen. And the Wicked Witch of the West, Maxine Waters, was she like 80 now or so? And she's worse than she was when she was younger. Nothing but hatred of the heart. And they keep voting her in. She's not done one thing for the blacks. That's good. Nothing good. And they keep voting her in, 86 years old, and wicked to the core. She's the same woman that was touting how she had treated Newt Gingrich. I will never forget that. I remember that. And I'm like, why are you proud of this? And I wasn't even to government at the time. And I had moved to LA. I was into the black thing at the time. And I still thought that was wrong. And the blacks applaud her. The Gazette is reporting Maxine Waters, a Democrat from California, says she was investigating Elon Musk for interfering in the 2024 election. And she went on to say, and we don't know everything. We don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology. Jared, did you write this or did this come from the Gazette? And we don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology. Think about that. She's cursing a government representative. This is so black, I don't even know what to tell you about it. With his high technology. Waters said during a video stream that aired simultaneously with Trump address to Congress on Tuesday. Watch this from X.
Turned it over to him. And we don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology. We don't know what he's been accused of by some as it may relate to the election. But we're not going to give up in investigating and finding.
This is black. This is what's wrong with the blacks. And if you think that's bad, and it is, I'm telling you, it's going to get worse, white people. It's not in the blacks to do good. They are Deuteronomy, cursed chapter. They are cursed. And you think that's bad? Watch this from this Ayanna Presley, whatever her name is. This is from CNN. Representative James Comer and Ariana Presley yelled over each other in a tense moment at an oversight committee hearing with sanctuary city mayors. Watch this from X.
Without objection, so ordered. We've put it in the record.
I haven't entered it.
You have what?
Mr. Chair, can I have several articles. I need to enter them. Let me just go ahead with what the articles are.
What's the next article?
Let me proceed. Data from Texas shows that U.S.-born Americans commit more rape and murder than immigrants.
Listen, this trend of you all trying to get thrown out of committee so you can get on MSNBC is going to end. We're not going to put up with it.
This is my procedural right as a member of this committee.
You can go with Mr. Frost and Mr. Green.
I'm reclaiming my time.
That's what you want. No, Ms. Presley, I have been very accommodating to you, Mr. Superjohn.
And I take particular umbrage as a survivor of sexual violence. I will enter into the record. This is my
Who
right.
cares?
Thank you.
No. It is Mr. Subramanyam.
Mr. Chair.
No, you know the process of unanimous consent. You are not recognized.
I have several articles to enter into the record.
Mr. Subramanyam, if you don't go, we're going to recognize Mr. Timmons.
Amazing, huh? And you want these females running your country. You get what you ask for. They will turn it, and they are turning it into a hood. They have nothing good to offer at all. It's not in their psyche. It's not in their bodies. It's not in their bones. It's nowhere. They don't have it. They don't know how to do it. They have no love. They have no respect. They don't respect Trump and the white men because they represent dad. And they hate the fathers. I'm warning you, just like 30 years ago, I warned white people when they were doing the knockout thing. Y'all better start speaking up here. The blacks are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. There's nothing in them to get better. And you put them in your government. I'm warning you before it's too late. You need to change this. Do not allow these people to participate in your companies, your government, your communities. You can only do white flight for so long. I know Elon is trying to send a rocket up there to the moon so y'all can go up there to live. And I'm already buying my ticket because I'm going to go to buy some land before it become too expensive. But everybody can't go to the moon. 888-7753-773. They hate Trump because Trump represents a strong father. 888-7753-773. Let me go to Ronnie out of Ohio. Ronnie, welcome to the show. You're on the air.
Uncle Jesse, how you doing today?
All is well, sir. Amazing.
Good. I wanted to push back, I guess, a little bit.
Okay.
On your, I know you've been going in on Jasmine Crockett since the show started. I don't know what she did or what she said to get you going.
I played it. She's dancing in the Capitol building. Look like she's calling Trump Putin hoe, and she's cursing. She's brought the hood into the White House.
Did it hurt your feelings?
It didn't hurt my feelings, but I don't like that for the young people to see that kind of stuff, because the black children are not being raised in the black homes, right? And they're going to see this, and they're going to believe that this is fine to act that way too, because this female and that little bald-headed one and Maxine Waters are supposed to be representatives. And if representatives, professionals are acting this way, the black kids going to think that this is normal because their parents are no good. They're not going to tell them, no, you can't act that way.
You said they're supposed to be representatives, or they are representatives?
Supposed to be.
Jasmine Crockett won 2 elections, the same amount that Trump won.
Unfortunately.
And she is a representative. So
Unfortunately.
I don't know why you keep calling her unfortunately.
Yeah.
You talking about Trump winning unfortunate, or you saying Jasmine Crockett's wins were unfortunate?
Jasmine Crockett. Because look how she's acting.
Because she's black.
Yeah.
Good Lord, Uncle Jesse, I don't understand it.
Why? So let me ask.
Really don't understand
do you think that all 3 of these people I've just shown, should they be acting this way up in the government?
I don't see a reason why they shouldn't.
Should they be acting this way in government?
It's not up to me to make that judgment, but I don't see a reason why they should not exercise their freedom of speech or tell the truth when they're asked a question.
So they should be cursing, dancing, calling Trump a hoe for Putin, and carrying on in government. You don't see anything wrong with that.
If they're being honest about it, I don't see anything wrong with it. I would
see something wrong with it. See, I told you that's. I don't know what happened to the blacks that they don't see anything wrong with that. What's wrong? What's wrong with the blacks? They don't see anything wrong with this.
It would be wrong if there was if Congress was in session and there was a vote going on and she was down there dancing. I would have an issue with that if she was dancing while she was on the clock.
But there's nothing wrong with a representative dancing in the Capitol, doing a stupid so-called rap song, any song really, but a rap song, and then she's cursing in the Capitol, and she called the president Putin hoe, a representative, and you don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't. That's why
that's shocking. That's why I don't know what happened to the blacks, that they lost all sense of respect. You don't even see anything wrong with it, running. I'm surprised. What's good about it? What's good about it?
What's good? I wouldn't say that there's anything necessarily good about it.
Then it has to be bad then.
I would disagree with you on that. I think some things can fall in the category of not good and not bad.
Not true.
We just disagree.
Right on. Ronnie, thank you, but I got to take a break. Two more. Thank you, Ronnie. 2 more hours to go. Back in a moment. The hate news coming up. Not the fake news, but the hate news. I'll be back in a moment.
Okay. There you have it. That was Jesse Lee Patterson. And as you guys have heard, a very, very controversial figure. Now, my initial thought on this clip, and I'm going to bring in the panel in just a little bit, but my initial thought on this clip is that Jesse is kind of a bit out there in some of the points that he raised. And I want to start off by saying I disagree with most of what he said. But I do think throughout the his soliloquy there, he made some valid points. I did think that the question of professionalism by Black elected female leaders in government is something that is worthy of questioning based on the conduct of how these people are behaving themselves. I think professionalism is definitely something that is a fair point to bring up. Like, should we as the Black community or as Americans question the professionalism of our leaders? Should we have some sort of expectations as to how they should conduct themselves? I think there are deeper questions, more specifically for the Black community, about the power dynamics within Black households. I think he made some points about a lot of Black women growing up in single family households and not necessarily having a strong male voice to kind of guide and direct them. And I think that does serve in a lot of Black women being outspoken, almost without a filter. And I think you see parts of that demonstrated on the mainstream. And I think he's raised some legitimate points about that. And there's a number of other things that was discussed that I think he may raise some valid questions on. Now, with that said, I do want to get some feedback from obviously a very prominent Black young lady who is a service member. I want to get her original take on what she saw. And, we'll go into discussion on a point-by-point basis as to, what this clip symbolizes. So, Dominique, bringing you into the conversation, what did you think about Mr. Peterson's points of view in that clip?
I would say the majority I disagreed with as well. I didn't particularly care for his ideas on that. Basically, everything Black people touch, they ruin. And there was one point towards the end of the video, he goes, well, not all of them, but the majority. So that was good for him to clear that up. As far as the professionalism in office, it's not my cup of tea. But I also think what he did in the majority of his talk there was made a collective culture of Black community, and here in America it's made up of so much more. Like the African American culture is very different from Caribbean American or people who have just immigrated. So that's very different, and those cultures aren't the same, and how we view things aren't the same. So I would say, and then of course you've got to consider your generations and how they view things. So again, I don't feel like if you're in that position of leadership, to do that publicly for public to see, I don't agree that that's the way that you present. But I also don't think that every person's going to have that same viewpoint on how that should be. There's not a collective culture here in America amongst Black people to say this is what we think things should be.
Okay, I think those are some fair points. Now, I would like to tackle it on a point-by-point basis, because I do agree with you. A lot of what he said sounded crazy. To be honest, this dude kind of reminded me of Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django. He was the in-house slave who would say all these outlandish things as a means of buttering up the white slave master. And I think a lot of the things that he says is extreme. And I'll go ahead and ask the questions on a point-by-point basis, and we'll kind of get each other's take on what was said and whether or not there's any truth or validity to the point that he made. So starting first off, the first one is it true that Black people are not effective leaders? My point of view is this is not true. I believe it sounded like he was making an absolute statement here. and speaking in whole. And I can think of multiple examples of Black effective leaders, and on both sides, male and female. On the female side, I would say Oprah Winfrey is a great professional Black female leader, and that's an example that I think most people would agree with. She has done a lot. But she, built a media company, built a brand, always held herself in high regard. I may have not always agreed with her political affiliations, but in terms of building a respectable organization and being a respectable figure and recognized around the world, I would definitely point to Oprah Winfrey as an example of a good Black effective female leader. What say you on that one?
I agree. I think there's I think Black leaders are Black people can be effective in leadership. Without pointing out like famous people, I can specifically, I mean, I've had good, even in my military career, I've had amazing Black male leadership. I've had amazing Black female leadership, and I've also had horrible ones. I don't feel like leadership is indicative of race or gender. So some people have it, some people don't. Some people learn.
I agree. What I wanted to do is name a few. I think there's been other Black professional leaders like David Stewart, who's the founder of Worldwide Technology. He's a multi-billion Black leader. Robert Smith being another one, who's also another Black billionaire, who's, I believe he is into private equity. Robert Frederick Smith. These are a few examples to showcase that there are a wide range of Black leaders who have effectively led. So his position about Blacks messing things up and not being able to manage anything as leaders, I think it's a fault premise. It's a faulty premise. And sorry, I'm getting a call in here. I think it's a faulty premise, and I think it's one that's really not supported by fact. So I think that was extreme and just a radical statement for him to make. Now, moving on. Is it true, to the next point that he raised, is it true that Black elected officials are not professional in government these days? I should say Black female elected officials, but I guess we can make it on both points. I think the main point for him was Black female elected officials, but I'll let you tackle that.
I think some. I won't say all. I think some have used their platform to promote just Black excellence, and then others have just tried to make sure that they've kept it real.
Okay, I would agree with you. I would say the majority of Black elected officials we probably don't see on the mainstream. There's a lot of Black leaders in various positions that may not be a household name that do an effective job of running their districts or running their area. So I wouldn't agree with him on this particular point about most Black officials not being professional. With that said, I do think the examples he alluded to were valid. I do think there is a lot of female officials, minority female officials that get elected and that conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner. You know what I mean? So for me, when he pointed to those examples, although it was hard to hear, I had to kind of weigh it just on a case-by-case basis. And I'm not saying for the full duration of this lady's tenure as an elected official that she's been ghetto, because I'm sure she's well educated and she had to earn every vote. So she had to have had some sort of decorum that led her to be elected. So I want to give her the benefit of the doubt on that. But I do think that there were some effective examples provided in this particular instance that showed her acting unprofessionally. And to be totally honest, I was embarrassed by the behavior, right? I think you should use some decorum, especially when talking about our president, because obviously, we're all Americans. And even though we may disagree with certain points, to project such disdain and disrespect for an elected official like the president, it would lead other people to believe that your president should be disrespected. And to me, that's a bigger thing, because now we have to look at it of, we as elected officials, they're supposed to be acting in the best interest of the country, and the country is now being judged by other countries in the world. And if we are demeaning each other to a point where the perception of other countries is to disrespect the head of our country, then we're doing our country a disservice. And I think you could take that small example and bring it into the household. If you are a married woman disrespecting your husband in public, it makes the public not respect your husband. It makes it harder for him to transact. It demeans him. It demeans your household. And it's a bad look overall on your family name. So in the same capacity, if we have officials who can amicably disagree on policy, but when things get personal to the point of calling somebody someone's hoe and just using profanity to disrespect one another in public and to demean, and I can find a lot of examples of that happening. He pointed to a few. To me, I feel like that's distasteful. I don't believe that's the best representation of our people. And if I would have a say, I would prefer to have a representative that looks like me, that didn't conduct themselves in that manner. What say you?
I would agree. I would definitely prefer to have a representative that conducted themselves in a way that I approve of. And his examples that he did use proved his point. That most definitely. So.
Okay. Next question. It's kind of along the lines of a similar thing. Is DEI to blame for the behavior of minority elected officials? So the bigger question becomes, have we empowered people like this, like what was the lady's name? Jasmine Crockett, or Maxine Waters, or the bald-headed lady that he referred to, Ayanna Presley, I believe her name is. Are we electing these people and empowering them to act ghetto because they think that that's how we want them to act? Because if you really take inventory, I would like to think that the Black community wants to have a proper representation. I think a lot of people voted for Barack Obama, I being one of them, because we loved how he conducted himself. I think the example that he set as the first Black male to be elected as the president of the United States was that this was a man who should be respected. He was an academician. He was a person who was an intellect. He conducted himself well. His personal life was intact. He was a good father, at least on the surface. He carried himself with respect. And I think it made a lot of Black people proud to have that kind of representation. And I think, especially in the areas of politics, which is a very visible thing, the optics matter. But we do seem to have shifted into a time or a phase where there's a lot of Black activists running for office, people who are doing outlandish things to curry attention, to be somewhat of a voice against the power structures, if you are, well, the patriarchy or whatever the case. And now there's this sort of feminist agenda to be as disrespectful and as flippant as possible to what is perceived as the power structure. And we're propping people up, to pretty much act unprofessional. Do you believe that maybe that movement, that DEI movement, is playing a part in that?
I don't think so. I think because a lot of this, what you're seeing, was evident prior to that. I would say it has more of, you've got younger generations moving into politics who don't have the same viewpoints, and social media. I think that how they acquired their subscribers or their followers, that was probably generally established before they got into government, and they didn't change a lot of that when they got into it.
Okay. I love that you made that point with social media, because it does seem like a lot of the behaviors are to garner attention, to gain popularity or notoriety. And I think there's a component of this that we need to discuss with regards to politicians being celebrity groupies. This sort of quest for to be validated by acting outlandishly in a similar manner that a celebrity would, right? It's almost like a lot of celebrities build somewhat of a following, and then their lives are messy, but they garner the support of the public. And I think a lot of politicians draw from that, and then try to do similar things. And I just think it sits differently, or it portrays differently when it's done by an elected official than when it's done by a celebrity. Okay, next question that we try to address, and I try to capture a few of it. Is it true that Black women are partly to blame for the dysfunction in Black households? What say you?
Partly, sure.
Okay.
I think, households typically are made up of a husband and wife. And when you look at a large percentage of Black homes, they are single parents. You have a lot of Black single mothers. And that happens for a number of reasons, but that's not the typical setup, the ideal setup. So I wouldn't say it's just the Black woman, but if to answer the question, partly, sure.
Okay. Now, this was one of the points that was raised in Mr. JLP's rant. He alluded to the fact that a lot of this conduct is things that's been modeled, where the Black woman almost is the power structure within Black households and not the Black man, in part due to the fact that he may not be there, broken families, or whatever the case. But then it raises a bigger question. Would you say in other communities there's a lot of outspoken women taking the lead, where the man is perceived as playing supportive role more so than playing the leadership role?
I would say it's probably a combination between that, and then you have some Black men who the easier out is to just not say anything. So they let her do that because that's just easier for them, not for the family unit.
That's true. And he raised another point that I thought had some truth to it, where he said, you know, there's a lack of respect. And I can't say that this is across the board, because there's always exceptions to every rule. And I think he was speaking generally. And while I disagree on the majority of what he said, I do think that there is some validity to the fact that, particularly in our community, there is a lack of respect from the female to the man in terms of how things are portrayed in the public. You know, and that gets into a whole bigger conversation. But with regards to this, I would actually agree with you and say that there is, you know, it takes two to tango, and there's always some sort of responsibility that each person plays in a conflict, whether it's to diffuse a hostile situation or to bring about clarity. Whenever there's an absence of that, you know, both people play a part, have some responsibility. So I would partially agree with him on this point, although I wouldn't say that it's true in every instance. Okay, moving on to the next question. Is this man, JLP, wrong for his positions on Black people and Black elected leaders? What say you? Just overall.
Overall, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't think they are the reason for the demise of our country, as he puts it. I do think Black people can make effective leaders. And every Black person in leadership is not acting in the way that he is trying to portray us as a majority.
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with you on that point. And I think that statement maybe may have been said for him to go viral, just to say something controversial. I don't think that even he believes that, because this is a Black man. I don't know if you remember that SNL skit where Dave Chappelle played the racist Black man who was talking about like the you know, the N-word, and you know, we can't, and he didn't know that he was a racist Black man until somebody broke it to him, at which point he was devastated when he found out that that was the case. Now, when this man said this is why Elon Musk is building a ship so white people can move to the moon, he's like, I'm buying a piece of land up there in the moon, almost as if he didn't realize that he would be the Black guy on the moon that they're trying to get away from. So to me, I thought that was funny, and like that he had no self-awareness as to what he was saying. But then again, if you take this all in the perspective of, this is a man who's a content creator, probably trying to create controversial content for the sake of, you know, going viral, then you don't take it as serious, you know, in terms of what he said. But had to pose a question anyway. Okay, next one. Is it true that Black men don't have much influence over the behaviors of Black women? What say you? And I should say in America. Let's say in America, because I can't, you know, I think foreigners may be different. Cultures may be different. We're going to say specifically in America.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. I think I think it depends on what facet of our culture that you decide to focus in on. I mean, if you look at you know, Hollywood, the Black actors definitely make a difference. You look at fashion, I think that plays a big influence on how Black women support, how they're acting, how they've come together. I just think there's a lot into it. You know, for those who are faith-based, while there is a change in a lot of religions where women are having a more active role in that. It's still majority men, and I mean, Black people typically go to predominantly Black churches, and I do think they very much have an influence.
Okay, I think I would agree with you in disagreeing. With that said, I think there's some times in some instances where that is true. To your point, I think when you're looking at like Black entertainment in terms of music and things of that nature, a lot of the music that comes out, particularly from Black men, tend to represent our women in a certain fashion. And so in a way, what we're projecting out through our music in terms of how our women are acting ends up kind of molding how they turn out. So there's some truth in that sense that we do have influence over how they act. So I'm not going to absolve all men from the responsibility of not being good leaders or maybe negatively influencing the thinking of their women. I agree on that point. In other areas with regards to relationship, the question is, if a lot of women are growing up in households where their fathers are not there, how can their Black father have an influence over them? And so while that doesn't represent all Black households, as there's a lot of, two-parent households where that's not an issue, there are a lot of examples of women not really having that modeled for them. So they're not accustomed to a Black man telling them or correcting them or guiding them because of the absence of their father. And because of that particular dynamic, that would make this statement somewhat true, in that in certain instances, it's hard to get a woman, to adhere to a voice that she's not accustomed to adhering to. And then if you look at the divorce rates, clearly there's a loss of control somewhere, somehow, right? So I'm kind of torn on that. I would probably more disagree than agree, but I think there are instances where you can, make an effective case that is true. Okay, moving on to the next question. Is this man JLP, a victim of self-hate? Does he hate himself? And just to frame it, this is a Black man saying, white people, you can't give Black people control of nothing. I told you they was going to mess everything up. I told y'all you better never do it again. Is he not?
He's definitely not fond of Black people. Not sure if he knows he's Black. But
that's a fact.
he definitely seems very pro self, but very much so pro his idea of how Black people should be. So I don't know if I'd call it self hate. Maybe hate Black, but yeah.
Okay. Moving on, I would agree with you. I think I think there's some self-hate there. Although I think a lot of this is for entertainment, I think there's some self-hate there. For sure. I think there's some self-hate there. There are a point that he raised. We'll get to that in the next question. But yeah, with regards to that question, I think he's got some self-hate. Okay, next question. Are Democrats celebrity groupies?
I would say yes on this one. I feel like Democrats more so than Republicans try to align themselves with celebrities first, and then use the celebrities to draw in support from voters. It just appears that that's definitely their angle and their tactic. Yeah, so yes.
I 100% agree with you on that front. I think when, say, for instance, Kamala Harris has a campaign rally And instead of actually laying out a game plan for what she plans to do for people and communicating that and trying to persuade people based on those policies to offer their support, she brings out celebrities to perform like Cardi B, who has to come in and she forgets her speech, and she brings out Megan Thee Stallion to twerk, and she brings out Beyonce, and she brings out all these people because they're tapping into their fan base as their voter base, meaning vote for me because I'm associated with this person. I think it's fair to say that they are in some ways celebrity groupies. And I think the clip he showed of this lady, Jasmine Crockett, dancing to Kendrick Lamar, They're Not Like Us. And it's almost like you're taking a song that we use in a rap battle where he criticized Drake, his opponent in that battle, as pretty much a child abuser. And you're using it now in the political realm to make some sort of race distinction between Trump and the MAGA movement and I guess black people. And I didn't see the connection. I thought it was not an appropriate use of the song and the gesturing. It seemed totally disconnected. And I can see why a guy like JLP will come to that conclusion. Like, this is ghetto and ratchet. This is not what you would expect from an elected official to be in the hallways making a video to a rap song to make a political statement. And in trying to make that political statement where an election was held, they lost really bad, which means that their efforts to do this did not resonate with the public. Like, you didn't get the votes. They lost all the swing states. They lost control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Yet you're still kind of doing this thing. So there's got to be something about celebrities that they're so enamored with that causes them to try to, like, I thought it was a music video. It seemed like it was a music video. It was like, no, this is like really happening in the halls of Congress, where a black elected female official is doing like a meme with her representatives to a rap battle song. Going back to the professionalism, I don't draw the connection. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would agree with you on that point too. All right, moving on to the next question. Have Democratic female leaders brought the hood into the government?
I would say overall no, but using the videos that he used, I would agree in certain points. Yes, the video of her dancing, the song choice, the video, the everything else. Yes, I'd agree. As far as the representative who was like arguing as the guy's telling her, hey, no, you cannot, this is not protocol. Like, I guess to an extent you could even argue that, like, just the complete disregard of the rules, the protocol. Sure. I wouldn't say for all the dysfunction that happens in government, not necessarily, but in the examples that he brought up, yes, I'll agree.
Okay, I would probably take your position as well. I actually found a few other videos that makes that point a little bit more compelling. But going on the full range of all black female leaders that has been in government, I wouldn't say the majority have brought the hood into the government. But I can point to a couple examples, the Crockett lady being one, all the Maxine Waters and some of the other people he referenced, I think also he made some compelling cases as to them kind of being a little hood. But I found a couple examples, one of which is the former mayor of Chicago. Of Dalton, I believe. Mayor Tiffany Henyard. I found a clip of another Black female elected official who was not conducting herself in a manner that was professional, in my point of view, based on how she conducted herself. So let me play that clip just to show that it does seem that there, in other areas, more local races and more local districts, that there's this kind of trend happening. Let me pull this up.
Rogers sorting out another confrontation involving the mayor, the board, and the public. Nate.
Yeah, guys, this Board of Trustees meeting ended early tonight with 4 trustees actually walking out abruptly. The village clerk left early as well. First, I want to paint a picture of what all we were able to experience. It was very chaotic, and to be quite honest with you, frankly honest with you, it was even scary at times for those of us that were inside of the meeting. There were folks banging on the windows and doors of the village hall. About 100 residents showed up at the meeting tonight, but only 42 residents were allowed inside. They had to walk through metal detectors, and they were wanded down. Before I take you inside of the meeting, I want you to listen to what happened outside first.
Let us in! This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
But at least the majority of the people in Dalton should be able to think like the mayor does. She's scary. She's absolutely scary.
Why can't we get in our public building to have meetings? Why are meetings being canceled? Why can't we have transparency what's going on with our tax dollars?
Several residents calling on Dalton Mayor and Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard to resign. She's been criticized for mismanaging village funds and dividing the Board of Trustees. The meeting comes amid a sexual harassment and retaliation complaint against Henyard. A former employee says she was sexually assaulted during a work trip in Las Vegas last year. The complaint says the employee was disoriented and unsure how she woke up inside a village trustee's hotel room. When she woke up about the former employee's claims, when she spoke up, about the claims, she was retaliated against, she says, and later fired. The FBI is now looking into village practices.
So this is one of the clips, and I found another one where I believe there was like a brawl or something over this lady, and it just seemed wild. So let me play that.
Chaos erupted at a Dalton, Illinois board meeting when scandal-plagued Mayor Tiffany Henyard got caught in the middle of a full-blown brawl. Literally. It all started when activist Jedediah Brown launched into a fiery speech, calling Henyard a half-assed mayor and accusing her of sleeping her way to the top. Things escalated fast when Brown called Henyard a vulgar name and walked away, only to be immediately charged by Henyard's boyfriend, Kamal Woods. That's when all hell broke loose. Henyard shoved a table aside and ran straight into the melee. Video from the meeting shows her diving into the chaos as security tried to separate the crowd. Witnesses say she lost a shoe, possibly a wig, and even hit her head on a table during the scuffle. I have never seen a politician jump into a fight like that, and it was scary and horrible, one eyewitness told local media. Another added, it was one thing when the guys were fighting, but when she jumped in, I was floored. It remains unclear if Henyard was trying to break up the fight or if she was actively involved in it. No arrests were made, and Brown was carried out by police. The meeting itself was already tense, with township officials questioning how grant money was being used for an at-risk youth program run by Woods and another man. Both were placed on paid leave as the board voted to bring in an independent auditor. Henyard slammed the move as political retaliation and has threatened legal action. This latest controversy follows a string of scandals for the self-proclaimed super mayor. She recently lost her bid for re-election as Thornton Township Supervisor, claimed voter suppression, and was just found in contempt of court for stonewalling liquor licenses. For more stories just like these, be sure to subscribe to the New York Post.
Okay, so that was one, and I think there was another one that I saw that just kind of showed her the way that she kind of managed her meetings. again.
WGN Investigates has an update on dysfunction in Dalton, where local leaders are fighting over transparency, spending, and safety. Now the South Suburbs' controversial mayor is firing back, and it all played out at a public meeting last night.
Y'all forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet, the mayor, not the trustees that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. Y'all don't do no work, no work.
Tiffany Henyard considers herself something of a crusader, but one who's clearly annoyed by questions from a rebellious group of Dalton trustees who are in a standoff with her over spending.
At the end of the day, vendors are not being paid. Board approved it. The vendors are not being paid.
How about you be a good leader, bring RFPs to the forefront, so not just us, but the residents and everybody else in America know how the money is being spent.
WGN Investigates has cataloged tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent on trips, meals, and more by Tiffany Henyard and her allies in Dalton and on the Thornton Township Board, where she's the supervisor. Township credit card records show Henyard and other officials spent more than $67,000 on trips to Portland, Austin, Atlanta, and New York City. Many of the flights were first class. So were the accommodations. In Atlanta, Henyard and her team stayed at the Four Seasons Hotel, costing taxpayers more than $9,000. In New York, the bill came to $13,000. Henyard has refused to explain the specific purpose of the trips or why they travel in such style, but she appeared to refer to our reporting at Monday's Dalton meeting.
But everything we do for the people. But we under attack. We getting scrutinized in the media. For what? Loving on the people? Showing them that they matter to us? We going through the fires for y'all.
Henyard calls her critics grandstanders who should get in line.
Y'all should be ashamed of y'all stuff. Y'all black. Y'all are black. And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Dalton's difficulties got worse in recent weeks with water main breaks. Henyard blames on trustee budget cuts. Then 4 people were shot and injured last week, leaving nerves frayed and Henyard's opponents pointing out her sizable security detail.
It's unfortunate that politics are being played, but what has happened is $1 million out of my budget has been cut because of politics.
We're not saying the police is not doing a good job. What we're saying is you're assigning all of them to be with you when they should be out here protecting the residents so we can all feel safe.
Residents are taking notice. Some spoke for and others against the mayor.
But, you know, we got the mayor here, meeting with the president of the United States. Everyone's seen the picture. That's a big deal. That is great promotion for this city, for this town.
Ladies and gentlemen, be civil, do things right, think of the residents. You are here to represent the residents and not yourself.
Henyard and her publicity team no longer respond to our emails seeking an explanation of her spending. As we've reported, she is also the face of a cancer charity that bears her name, one that has failed to file required financial disclosures. The Illinois Attorney General has given the foundation until the middle of this month to show how it spends its money or face legal action. Lourdes?
Okay. So after seeing that, does it change your answer? Or
not for the majority. There's always been corrupt officials, regardless of
I would agree. I would agree. I would say that in large, I don't think the majority of Black female leaders are like that. But there are a few examples that
of course
makes it look bad. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Is it wrong for Black elected leaders to conduct themselves in a ghetto manner? I think we kind of covered that one. Yeah. So lastly, your overall take on this particular topic.
I think my overall take is I still disagree largely with that gentleman's viewpoint. But I do think to where I would side with him, yes, I do feel like elected officials they have a duty to the voters. And I do think they should conduct themselves in a way that everybody else necessarily isn't going to have that type of standard. Like they're going to have to hold to a higher standard on and off camera, so to speak, more so than the average individual. And
do you think the voters are to blame for putting someone like that into office?
not necessarily. I think that can. So yes and no. I think there are some people who are like that, and you've got a voter or fan base that are that identify with that, and of course they're like, okay, this is who I want. I want someone like me with my viewpoints in office, and that's what they choose. And then on the other hand, I think because of social media, because of so many people get more comfortable with it, a lot of people just let their guard down. So how they presented, a few years ago, not necessarily how they're doing now. Sometimes it's just a very trending video that they decide to take part of, and it's not the most tasteful. So
I agree. I couldn't have said it any better. I think you hit it on the head. Thank you for your input. We will shift to another topic now, but I thank you for just the insightful conversation. And I definitely look forward to having you join us again for our next topic.
thank you for having me.
No problem. Okay, moving on to our next discussion point. You know what time it is. It's definitely time for the music corner. Now, we've had some more serious conversations that we've discussed, and I think the music corner is supposed to be a bit more of a chill zone for us to kind of appreciate the talent of some pretty talented musicians and artists. So let's go ahead and shift into that.
Here's just incredible sour milk. This one's gonna be special, man. I mean, you already heard it. I ain't even got to introduce him, man.
We here, baby. Ignatius out right now. LA Leakers, JD Kiss. Look out, 2020. The vision is clear in the hindsight. Yo. I will let the 9 burst. West Coast mixtape, kiss my Converse. Before you play your part, gotta read your lines first. Before it's in your heart, gotta be in your mind first. Getting my prayers in, I'm just trying to do what the Lord says. Slimmer fitting Dickie sitting right on the Cortez. You could tell a winning, yo, just look what the score says. My man will be home, pending on what the board says. They know the champ back, getting the camp back. Buying more AMG Benz with the slant backs. Album is out now, I'm hearing them chant that. It's heroin. Whenever I stamp that, know how I do niggas, you know that I chew niggas. Seasoned veterans or one of these new niggas. Gotta be kidding me, can never get rid of me. Even if they kill me, I'm still a epitome. Boss of the back block, talking that crack rock. Any controlled substance, I was the mascot. They did the bow ties, I did the ascots. They hit the quick pick, I hit the jackpot. Much as I have, I'm still repping the have-nots. I made a turn around, I just wanted the back shots. I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
Okay.
What's up?
What's up? What's up, man?
What's up?
Hold on, you.
That is Jada Kiss going in. I'm liking the vibe. Let's do one more. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do Money Back Yo as another.
Just incredible. Walk down time. Walk down. Speak now. Yeah, Speak Now. We celebrating the album. It's like 100 ball in diamonds right here on the table and rings. Six piece. I don't even want the diamonds is dancing. I don't even want to say what's on the wrist and all that. Money Back Yo is here. Looking like Jordan at the podium with the 6 rings. He here to talk crazy on y'all tonight, though. New album time. Type shit. Yo, Bag, let's go crazy on him tonight, man. Yeah. Talk your shit, man.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Got a little smoking, but other than that, I'm good. Some nigga thought I lost it. I come back harder. Nice. Into the streets, yeah, I heard the talking. Niggas can't hold a boy, get up off me. Name some cars, I bought them. Name some jewelry, I bought it. I can name some niggas out here win. They get it from me, I taught them. Whole ass niggas talking about I can't go back to my hood on godly. After I fuck your bitch, I'ma tell you about it. Just like got it. Yeah, you can speak, but why was you speaking on? Free A, they don't want to see the Reaper home. On the block with a Glock and a styrofoam. I ain't spraying nothing else, better leave me alone. Flew the bitch out, she was on her period. Sent her right back on spirit. Before anybody else said, I been stopped doing the mirror. What's money bad network for real? Oh no, hey Siri. Bitch trying to throw me that pussy, wanna see if I live my lyrics. Place your order, pick up, drop off, guys all on delivery. Double cup, let's have a walk off and show what you're sipping. She come around on D&D cause the hoe got a nigga. Almost lost my bitch one time cause my BM was bitter. What a hit for, shoot your wrist. Can't that nigga take my bitch. I kept pushing, I took my lick, then bounced right back on some whole other shit. Name me a nigga that's coming like this. Celine, Chanel, my clerk for the winter. Shopping no limit, I turn to a spender. Send me a blitz, I be with the spinners. I'm peeping all the hatred. I'm peeping all the fake shit. Told all my bitches better get it together cause some of you hoes ain't gonna make it. I'm switching my phones, I'm changing my numbers. I don't wanna talk no more, baby. Had to limit the circle cause niggas ain't on what I be on a daily. Going at us like fighting the Navy. You niggas ain't got enough pay. How you gonna beef with a motherfucking done that made sure everybody ate? Even before I had open cachet, been serving everybody plates. I got my switch out, digging this bitch down, feel like the bed about to break. I do not fold these niggas and want them to know that I do not fuck with them. Non-personal, keeping it business, ain't sparing they bitches, trying to see what's up with her. When I step out, I be with my little hitters, the new generation killers. Genfo Glock 26 gon' switch them. All black hop out, get them. Wherever I go, I'm good. Wherever we at, I'm good. They running the trap in the hood, but other than that, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. You good? I'm good. We good. On the strap, I'm good. Anywhere on the map, I'm good, nigga. Hey,
whoa. Money bag, yo, in this
speak right now, nigga. Yeah.
Speak now, the album. You dropping 2 bombs on the people, though, right?
That's how I'm doing it. 2 bombs, nigga. You know how when I'm talking.
6 rings. Jordan type shit, man.
We been winning, nigga.
You know, whenever my boy in LA, he pulling up, I appreciate you, my brother.
Yeah, time.
All right. That was the end of the show. Thank you all for joining me. I know we went a little long today, but for those who are not connected, definitely get connected so your voice can be heard. We covered a series of topics today. Obviously, we want you to be entertained. We want it to be a balanced show. Obviously, you know, there's some wide range of discussions here, but we always like to end on a lighter note. For those of you who don't know Jesus, I would definitely recommend you get to know him. He's the Lord and Savior over my life, and I know he wants to have a relationship with you. So, get to know him. Anyway, that's my advice. Signing out. Peace.